Welcome to this training video. This is tool orientation, and I'm sure you'll find it informative. We're going to go over the basic toolkit for tools that are issued to a new technician that is working for Greenlight Services. I just want to say this, that tools, we have a love-hate relationship with our tools in the window cleaning industry. I start off with this as a good example. We thought this might be a good tool for us to use. However, we noticed that it's very cheap and it falls apart and we can't use it. It's not part of the tool orientation video. But just to let you know to begin with that you can buy window cleaning tools at Home Depot, but usually they are the variety that are consumer rated or consumer made. They're very cheap and they don't work too well for us. Some squeegees they sell there are one job and done type squeegees. So for the window cleaning professional, and he's torn between the fact that he needs a good tool to use that'll last him for a year or so, and the fact that there's not a lot of people that need those kinds of tools. A lot of window cleaning is done from day to day with very cheap tools. It's a disposable type situation for a lot of people that clean windows. But for us, we try to find tools that are high quality, that are heavy duty, that last, and we try to stick with those. And it's a toolkit that continues to evolve with time. When you're watching this video now, there may be some of these tools that you see today that we don't use anymore. But we hope that this orientation will at least give you some familiarity with how we do things as far as cleaning windows and cleaning a storefront video. That you also, as in our video package, you will see us using tools to clean a storefront. And many of those tools will be what we issue when you first come to work for us. We put this out of the way here. We can first start off with the window cleaning buckets that we have. This orange bucket you see here at the front of the table is a spare water bucket. You can get water anytime you wish if you can find a water door or a mop sink. We say a water door, there's a little door, steel door on sides of buildings and commercial strip centers. But you can access water with a four-way water key. You may need to zoom in to see this, but you're issued a four-way water key. Use one of these parts of this, one part of this to open the gate, and the other part to actually take and unscrew the water bib control knob and let the water flow into your bucket. We used to use these more extensively, but now that we've started encouraging our technicians to use the two bucket concept, which is have a spare bucket of water as well as a full bucket of water each morning, typically you can get through your entire day using just these two buckets of water. Your principal bucket is a green bucket. We try to have a green theme with our tools. It has a snap-on lid that's easy to get on and off. You can dip your 18-inch strip washer in here very easily. So I usually fill my bucket up about halfway to start the morning. And the same with this orange bucket, about 2/3 of the way. And I can go all day cleaning windows with that typically, and not have to refill. So one thing I can show you at this point is this is a drain tray. We used to encourage technicians to wear a bucket on the belt, a hip bucket, and keep their strip washer in their hip bucket. But these days we're training technicians not to use tool belts at all. Perhaps stick a hub towel through your belt loop, and that's all you need on your person in order to clean windows. However, this drain tray fits into this bucket here. I will get the orange bucket out of your way so you can see this. That orange bucket already has water in it prepared for tomorrow. So when you put this drain tray in here, then what can rest in that is your strip washer. Your washer, your mop, your strip washer, whatever you like to call this. This is a T-bar. Might be similar to what you're going to be using. Who knows by the time we issue your tools what T-bars we're using, but we like a swivel T-bar. Works the best, especially on the end of the pole. Well, the perfect one would be a hybrid, and this is what we've customized here. I've done this personally for myself. Is I use a heat gun, a pop rivet gun, and have customized an ergonomic locking T-bar, locking swivel T-bar, which is not sold. Unger has a locking T-bar that's not ergonomic, so this is a custom job here. So we're hoping that someday that they will sell a ergonomic swiveling locking T-bar to help us wet windows with. So right now that doesn't exist. But we're working on Unger right now to produce those. I'm putting the strip washer on here. You may have noticed that there's a little loop on the inside. You stick that through. It helps keep it on the T-bar more evenly throughout the day. Has a little Velcro on the back. Bring that around, and now you have your strip washer on its T-bar. And this is a mop or a washer that you wet the windows with. And it works very well. We use the Monsoon by Unger. We just started using it recently. We really like it. There's a Kevlar tip on the end. And we're looking forward to them putting them on both ends of the Monsoon. But until that happens, it's just one side. But whenever you have something you need to really scrub, perhaps there's some bird droppings on glass, someone's broken an egg on it, you just need to reef. You can kind of grab your strip washer and you can just grind that off with this very tough and durable piece of Kevlar that's on the end of your T-bar. So I'll put that right here on this drain tray is where I keep my T-bar typically. And so that's how that works. It just keeps your strip washer available to grab instead of having to grab it out of the water all the time. So that's your T-bar, your bucket, and your drain tray. Someday I'd like to see a bucket that has a drain tray that is actually lower and something that you can put the lid on with the drain tray in place. Perhaps it also has a place on the outside, some hooks to hang squeegees on would be nice. And also on the inside here, a place to hang your ledging squeegee, a place to hang other squeegees. But that doesn't really exist right now. I'm thinking about customizing my bucket and gluing some plastic hooks on the inside of it to hang a strip washer and to hang a squeegee. And that's something that you might think about doing. But yet that's not on the market yet. But what we like to do in doing route work is you take your bucket out of your car, you take the lid off, and you're actually ready to go. And so the buckets that are on the market right now aren't conducive for a very, very quick transition between having the lid on and off. And so I've seen some guys maybe trim their lids a little bit so they can put it on top of the drain tray, but of course this means now that the bucket isn't 100% leak proof anymore. So anyway, this method, whenever you're done washing windows, you just pick this up and drop it into the bucket, put the lid on, and at your next stop you bring it out of the bucket and hook it on there. When I go up to a strip center, I'll have usually about 3 squeegees in the water and my strip washer and my drain tray in the bucket as I approach a building or I'm getting it out of the car. One thing about it, we have soap right here. What do we use to wash windows with? We use water and dish soap. And why do we use that? That's because it works best. Water is your solvent. This soap is acting as a lubricant. If you look online, do some research, you'll find that dish soap does have a little bit of denatured alcohol in it in order to help cut grease. But other than that, it's merely a lubricant. It may have some soaps may have some antimicrobial disinfectant chemicals in them. But what we need in the industry, if we had a scentless, clear, just help us to lubricate our windows so we can squeegee over top of them, that's what we're doing. So the sudsiness of it, the soap bubbles are actually kind of your enemy when you're washing windows. They kind of roll around and get on the wrong side of your squeegee and help leave streaks on the glass and remnants and residue on it. So what the goal is to use as little soap as possible whenever you're putting soap in your bucket. To demonstrate, if I was to have this open, which I'm not for this demonstration, this is about how much soap I put in. I start squeezing with medium pressure and I just kind of, okay, I'm done. How long was that? About 2 seconds? It's kind of like putting that syrup on top of your ice cream sundae. You just kind of put it on there and you're done. So we don't need to put a third of a bottle or half a bottle, and you don't just put drops of soap in there either. So you're actually streaming some in and probably putting an ounce or two in there. So your bottle of soap should last you a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If you're doing 3 days a week, let's say it's 2 buckets a day, 6 buckets, 12 buckets. You can probably do about 12 buckets with 1 bottle. So only 1/12 of this should go in, or perhaps even less. And so purchase your soap at Walmart or Target, and then as you turn in your paperwork each week, you scan that receipt in and we'll reimburse you for that. We do not stock soap at our tool crib. We stock all the other things there, but we do not stock soap. We say all other things I should mention. We do not stock pliers and a screwdriver, which you do need in order to work on some of your squeegees that may need a little maintenance. If you're going to change a channel out or something like that, you need to provide your own screwdriver and your own pair of pliers, and keeping those in your glove box while you run route. Because at some point in time, you're going to wish you had them because something's going to go wrong, you need to change something, you need to have a pair of pliers and a screwdriver provided by you. Go to the store to pick you up some soap. And I believe the rest of everything else we provide for you at the tool crib whenever you were first employed by us. So let me set this aside. And I will set the bucket aside as well. So notice that our tools are a green theme. We are Greenlight Services, and green and black, Unger is going that route, and we like Unger tools better than other tools. They have some good stuff, so we're using those. They've always made great poles. They started making recently a really good squeegee called the Ninja, which we've adopted to use as our main squeegee. And why have we done that? Well, before we get to that, let's just talk about poles right quick. This is your main pole to use when doing route work. And these poles do have a tendency to wear out, but at the tool crib we do keep extra inserts here, this little plastic end. Those have a tendency to wear out right in here after maybe 6 months or so, but we have those spares at the tool crib. So if your pole starts getting loose where you tighten this down and it still doesn't tighten all the way, that's because the interlocking mechanism has worn out. And so you can get those at the tool crib, get one of those and replace it. Now these poles are about $25 a piece. They are not cheap. And so please take good care of your pole. Don't bend it. Don't extend it too far like this. How far should this be extended for maximum extension? Well, let those overlap a little bit, about that much. If you pull it out to here and try to use it, it's going to put a lot of leverage on the end of that pole and start making bends and creases in it, which you don't want. So I encourage you to try to remember about right here is your maximum length. This is an 8-foot pole. And so for most stores that we do, most locations that we service, we can reach every window with this pole right here. And so one more thing, the pole tip, if you can zoom in perhaps, if you can't see it, but this, I'm pushing the buttons here and then pulling this out, this green tip. This is an old style tip, which we like much better than the Unger new style pole tip. We don't need to lock things on the end of our poles. We usually, as soon as something's put on the end of a pole, we're pulling it back off and putting a squeegee on and then setting it aside and so forth. So we don't need a lock, typically. You may like the new style. We have both at the tool crib because every time we order a new pole, we get the new style pole tip. But we do stock the old style in case you want to use those. And these are what I prefer. I just seem to have less annoyances if I use this old style pole tip. I don't have to worry about a locking mechanism getting in my way. I just put the tools on the end of it and work with it. But this is our pole One thing I wanted to say to you, at the end of the day, with this pole, when you're doing a shutdown, which at the end of every day you should do, is you have to gather up your dirty towels, gather up your dirty buffer pads, and get those in the wash. Put them in the washing machine. A lot of times just use hot water, don't even need any soap because they have remnants of dish soap in them already. A good hot wash is good for them. Your pole itself, if you work with it extended, it gets water built up on the inside of it all day. At the end of the day, at least take and wipe the water off of this shaft. But what I do many times at the end of the day, I pull this apart, then I set it back down in my truck or trunk, or I set it in my garage. But especially at the end of the week, if it's Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, I pull these apart and let them air dry out. Because as you keep them like this and perhaps even tightened up, there's all kinds of moisture that stay in this pole. And it causes it to smell sour whenever you open it back up on Monday. Plus you'll notice that the shaft, the inner shaft of the pole, becomes oxidized. So it really takes the life away from the pole if you allow moisture to stay in it. So again, at the end of the day, take your pole, pull it apart, wipe it down, or at least pull the two shafts apart and set them aside. And then, in the morning at your first store, you just put it back together and use it all day. But pull it apart, set it back down in your trunk or in the back of your truck, whatever you're doing, and maintain your pole that way. You will appreciate it, and you won't have to smell that stinky sour smell the next morning or on Monday. One more thing, sometimes these things get a little tight and they're hard to loosen, but you grab the shaft with your right hand, this nut with your plastic nut here with your left, or knob or collar, let's say, it's a plastic collar, and it's lefty-loosey. The collar itself becomes loose. What I do sometimes is I'll take and place it between my feet, because it gets it bound up sometimes, and so I'll take and, like my heels, I'll put it right between that, and then kind of clamp down on it, and then clamp it with my hand, and then come around and loosen it. Because sometimes it'll just spin in my right hand because I can't grip it enough. Maybe my hand's a little wet from working. So just put it between your heels, and it seems to add, those two grip points add together to where you can really put some torque on the collar and break it free. So just something to keep in mind when you're using your pole. One last thing about poles. That's what we just showed you is a two-piece section 8-footer. We have available at the tool crib a 5-section pole that are 6 foot each. You can squeegee up to a 30-foot window, 35 feet with it. Many times for most of our route work, you may need 2 to 3 pieces of it. I know of maybe one job that we have right now where you need a 4-piece pole. I used to do pole work with 5 pieces on some of our stores, the really tall ones. I don't know of any that we have that are like that right now. But the taller pole, we call it a 5-section pole, a 5-banger, the 5 6-foot pieces that we keep at the tool crib. We assign those out on a case-by-case basis. We don't immediately consign that with the basic toolkit. So if you noticed on your route that you need one, you'll need to go to the tool crib and sign it out. And whatever you think you might need, you need 2, 3, 4 pieces, all 5 of a 5-section pole, then sign that out. We appreciate it if you would sign your tools out as you sign them out. So that way we can keep track of who's using our tools, where they are. And by the way, these tools there, it's not like they are a DeWalt hand drill that costs $150. But for instance, this squeegee right here is about $30 when you add the handle and the channel together. And so it's not cheap. You can buy a squeegee at Walmart for $7 or $6 or $4 to use in your bathtub or your shower. But these tools that we use, the squeegees that we use, are very expensive, relatively speaking. So we need to keep track of them, be careful with them, don't drop them on the driveway and run them over or forget them somewhere. As forgotten tools, you'll have to pay for. It'll be taken out of your check as you get another one, as you have to get another tool. We just want to say that by the way. So let's go with our main squeegee now. This is an Unger squeegee. channel and handle. And you'll notice there's a locking mechanism on the bottom. You pull that out and then you push on it again. It's spring loaded. And you put your channel in there. By the way, you can look at YouTube videos on this, the Ergotech Ninja channel, and they'll explain it in more detail. But the reason why we really like these channels, because they are clipless. You go like this, you push these little plastic ends out, and that's it. You can slide your rubber out and change it. And you'll notice on there's 2 levels. You can take and put it out further where you have a little more or a lot more flop in the rubber, a lot more give, which I never use. Some people use that on a longer channel whenever they're doing high poling, like a 3rd-story commercial building, and they've got a 30-inch or 36-inch channel. What will happen is that as the longer a squeegee gets, the less pressure you can put on the rubber. And so that extra flex allows you to bear down a little more on the rubber and has a tendency not to lift on the glass as you do so. But for us, for high speed, for groundwork, when the squeegee is in your hand, you're going to notice that if you extend it out to that next notch, that then you're going to have streaks on the glass. It's going to feel sloppy because what will happen is the rubber is just going to roll down flat. And instead of you squeegeeing with that corner edge of the rubber, you're squeegeeing with a flat rolled part of the rubber, and it doesn't squeegee as well. You leave watermarks on the glass. And so anyway, the back of this channel, there's 2 slots. Put in the back one. What I do is, with both of these open, I feel with my fingers, you don't even have to look. Just get it even. And as you feel the rubber's even, then just kind of push in on those 2 plastic channels, plastic levers, knobs. And you'll notice that your rubber is even in your channel. And that's what you want. You want it to be even. This is a variable angle, adjustable angle squeegee. It's not a swivel squeegee. So I typically keep mine fairly tight, and then I can adjust it sometimes if I want to use it this way on the end of a pole. But mostly I like the availability of it being stiff when I'm squeegeeing. It gives me something to reef on, so to speak, a little something to get some torque. If it kind of flops around, it seems to be a little harder to squeegee with. But some people prefer it loose, and that's the way they do it. You develop your own style. But for training, we'll always train you with a tight one, and then if you like to use it loose, you can. That's your main 18-inch squeegee. And we use 18 inch, that's an industry standard. If you buy rubber at 18-inch lengths, it's cheaper that way. And oh, by the way, these rubbers are $1.50 each. How long should they last? You should be able to go about 3 days with one side of one rubber and then flip it over. About 24 hours worth of work per side. So about every 2 weeks you should be getting a new rubber. But each week flip it over, every 2 weeks put a new one on. That's what we recommend. Let me just go with this one first here. These are basically the same thing. You'll be issued an 18-inch swivel and we call this a straight swivel. Unger actually makes a nice swivel squeegee handle. It's just too bad it's not really made for their Ergotech Ninja channel, but that's what we use it for. And you can too. We see that it works really well that way. But what we use this for is hard to reach windows. I always use it on the lower glass. A lot of strip centers in Houston especially are built where there's a big window at the top and a little one at the bottom. And I just wet with my pole, strip washer on the end of it, and I'll take this 18-inch and only go 2 passes on the end of my stick, the end of my pole, and it'll squeeze the glass, and I use it in a, not completely loose, maybe just a little bit of tension. This has got a knob tensioner on it. But if you want to keep it stiff, there's a button you push, and then it becomes stiff straight. But you can adjust the drag on here to where you just turn it and it's completely loose and it swivels very nicely. I like mine just with a little bit of drag so that as I work with it, it doesn't seem to flop around on the glass. Or when I'm approaching the glass with it, I don't have to reach down and get it in the right bearing on the glass and then put it on there. If it's got a little bit of drag, it seems to be the best way to use it. Again, you can experiment with that and see how it goes. With this, you have to use your pliers and screwdriver to change the channel. Not the rubber, but the entire channel if you want to change it out. Same goes with this. I like this because I use this on some strip centers, even have these tiny, like 12 to 15 inch pieces of glass along the bottom, and the 18 inch is too wide to use, so you use a 10 inch, maybe sometimes a 1 stroke or 2, and you can do that. Then also what I'll do with this one, if I have any small windows at a strip center, let's say it's a restaurant and it's got some French pane, I'll take this and lock it, and I'll hold it almost pencil style, and I'll squeegee with it. That's with this, the smaller 10 inch Ninja that you're issued. And so that's something you can do. So this is for those low, small glass, and then also use it like a pencil, or sometimes if you're in the right spot, you can hold like a regular squeegee and squeegee with it. And so that's your 10 inch Ergotech Ninja. We just call it Ninja Squeegee. This is a ledger, we call it. What is it? It's a squeegee handle. It's an Ergotech Unger handle. It's got, you push this lever down and this comes out. It's a stainless steel channel. Comes out fairly easy. And you'll notice it has little notches here because it holds it in with these teeth and keeps its rubber in place and keeps the channel centered. So you can change this one out fairly easily. And so that's if you need to, but typically we don't. But we use this to ledge with. We'll talk about that with towels, but you'll see it in the video. I'm grabbing, or whoever's in the video grabs a small squeegee after they've done a window, and they ledge it off. And so they are top, and they go across the front. And when you're going across the front with the ledger, you put this finger out like this, put it up under that channel or the frame, let the finger go up there, and you form this corner. So you're going along with your index finger, you're dragging the water drips off the bottom, about a ½ inch in, because you're just right there at the front bottom of the frame. You'll see when you bend down there and look, all along the front bottom of the window frame, you'll see water building up and dripping. And so you catch the front and underneath in one pass with this ledger. So top and that, and of course I put it on the end of the pole and do the bottom frame. I will just frame it off. And typically what I'll do is I'll towel the frames as high as I can reach, and then that top ledge, and then the bottom on the ground I'll take and I'll put this on the end of the pole, and I'll just frame it with the rubber, with the squeegee. I'll just frame it out. You'll see that in the instructional video. If you have any small French pane windows, you can use this if you want to squeegee it with. We've already talked about the 4-way water key. Let's talk about razors right quick. Razors are very handy, and they're also very dangerous. How is it that they're dangerous? Well, they can cut you. I've had a technician cut his face before with a razor somehow. But you can cut your fingers really bad. You can end up in the emergency room if you're not careful. Because these have real razors. This is a 4-inch razor that goes on the end of this. Unger makes this 4-inch razor. This is what we use for our primary if we're doing a big job. And this is the razor pack. But you'll see that you just take and push up on this little plastic button, and then this slides out. You put the blade in here and then push it back. It snaps back into place. So you just have to be careful with that when you're using it, because it's dangerous. But we don't typically assign this to you immediately with your toolkit. If you need it for a big construction cleanup job that you're doing, you can get it from the tool crib. What we assign you is a smaller squeegee, because typically you have maybe a few labels. You have a piece of gum, sticky notes, not sticky notes, excuse me, the double stick tape, double stick foam tape, posters, things like that are on the glass that's right there in a high traffic, high use area where people are looking. It might be on the front door. You've got a blob of something on there that you can't wash and squeegee off. You get out your razor, you get this small one out, give it a little scrape, and you're done. These are very popular household items, these type of little scrapers. You probably have seen them before. And the way you change, and these use regular, I think it's 1.5-inch blades that we buy at Home Depot. And you just take and you can put that on the edge of your bucket, squeegee channel, and you push that out to change it. And then just be careful when you're putting these in or changing blades, because they will They will hurt if they cut you. Okay. We typically get spare rubber. This isn't marked the way it should be, but at the tool crib you'll see a felt tip pin inside the box of supplies there. And there's also these plastic bags, Ziploc bags. Take and get you 5 or 6 18-inch rubbers and put them in there. If you're going to use a 24-inch channel, mark it 24, mark it 18. Perhaps while you're there, you can bring your 10-inch channel in, and you can take maybe 3 pieces of rubber and chop 10 and 8. You have an 18-inch rubber, chop 10 inches out of it and 6 inches out of it, and get you a 6-inch bag for your ledger, and get you a 10-inch bag for your small swivel, and then get another bag and make you some spares for your 18. And if you're going to use the 24, you can even get you one for that. So that way, you can keep these and zip them up so they don't get all dirty somewhere in the bottom of a supply bucket. Because you are given a supply bucket, if you'd like to take more than one of these from the supply room because you feel like you need it in the back of your trunks, feel free to do so. We get these at the dollar store for $1 a piece. But I like to keep my spare rubber in there. That's where I keep those. But that's good for tools, for supplies. I also keep in mind, I keep this, which is a duster for de-webbing, especially cobwebs. And we're still not happy with this cobweb brush. This is a fan blade brush that we use for de-webbing. It seems to last longer than what we've been using. But you'll notice sometimes you'll go to a store and the spider webs are so thick that if you tried to squeegee it, you'd have spiders falling in your face. All their webbing would be wrapping around your strip washer, getting on your squeegee, causing streaks, causing debris, just residue to build up on the glass, and then you just can't squeegee it. So especially in the spring of the year, on several strip centers, not a lot, but several, you'll have to go up, you get this, put it on the end of your pole, and clean out spider webs. You see that also in the instructional video on how to clean a storefront. But I keep that in there, in the trunk of my car, the spare rubber, that's where I keep those. At the end of the day, I may put my smaller squeegees in there, keep my 4-way water key though. I was going to say on the bucket, I don't actually do that. I keep my 4-way water key and my razor and my spare razor blades in my glove box with my screwdriver and my pliers. You don't want those getting wet. These are not stainless steel. I think these are just carbon steel blades. If they get wet, they rust and they're done. Rusty blades scratch glass. Before we forget, I'll go ahead and have this orientation take care of razor blades. A lot of glass has razor sensitivity, so you have to check first. I say, we check on a small portion first. You have to just take the lower right of a piece of glass before you razor it with the small one or the big one. Take and wet it and then scrape using a pushing motion. And if it sounds like sand is under your blade every time you go across, then you're scratching the glass, and that's because it's a razor sensitive piece of glass that has glass fines or glass debris baked onto the glass. Now you can go on the internet and look at glass scratches or scratchedglass.net, YouTube about scratched glass, glass debris, glass fines. Just be careful when you razor a window. We've scratched the living daylights out of a lot of glass over the years, and it's always the problem is we get excited we're going to razor this window, and we don't realize it's unrazorable. What needs to happen with those windows is you have to come in with some Goo Gone or Oops and spray down the entire window and scrub them with a white scrubbing pad or a towel or your strip washer, and literally chemically remove all the debris. You can't use a razor because it is unrazorable. But we don't do those kinds of jobs. We just tell the store owner that they need to get a residential cleaning company to come in and do their construction cleanup. That's why typically we don't do construction cleanup, because we run into those problems too often. So anyway, that's our razor story. Supply bucket. Feel free to pause this video at any time and take a little break if it's lasting too long for you. The first thing we want to talk about here is we want to talk about this buffer pad. You'll see me putting this together. Maybe you can zoom in and take a look at this wheel. During your training as a technician, you'll be instructed to do this. But this is a Scotch-Brite, what do they call it, microfiber floor pad they made back in 08 and 09, maybe 2010, and they don't sell them anymore. So we went through and bought up all we could on the internet. We have a few left. But one thing about it, they work great on interior window cleaning. So this buffer pad is a very important tool to use, especially inside of malls where there's a lot of lint. Don't use it inside restaurants, but you'll have to learn to use it. What happens is that you can put a little bit of moisture on here, just dip your hand in your bucket, just kind of dry it off, and you need to get a feel for this tool. And you'll notice that you can clean a window with this when it's clean. Now, if you want to use one day to day, it's not going to work. You'll have to clean this every day if you want to make good extensive use of it. Every morning you need to start with a clean one and clean spares. So what we typically do is have two. By about lunchtime we start on another one. Or if we had a big job and it's looking bad, we go ahead and switch it out. Spare pads, we have those at the tool crib. But this is, you take your thumb, put it under here, pull up, that's how that comes off. But anyway, it's a nice swivel. I haven't had one break, and I use them a lot. This is just a nice tool that they don't make anymore. You can get something that doesn't have this roll back. And what I use this for is the frame. So I'll just kind of let that roll back onto the frame, and that cleans the dust off of frames, off the glass, and the frame. And so it's a powerful tool. It saves lots of time. I've even convinced people to start up window cleaning service because the last guy they used got water all over the inside displays of their retail store. Also, well, no, we have this pad that we use, gets all the lint and dust off your frames. We don't even have to put any water on it, and it'll look great. Oh yeah, go ahead and sign me up. Do the insides every 2 weeks. That sounds great. So there's certain situations, you'll look at your job notes, especially at certain restaurants, cafes on the inside, don't even get it out of your car. But other situations, you can use you can do the entire store on the inside with this. The inside of the door, probably not, where the fingerprints are. You want to do a squeegee with those. But for most times, retail applications, especially inside a mall, the interior and even some exterior windows you do with this. I've also had some buildings that have very high windows. If you start off with one of these that's very fresh, and it's a maintenance situation, you've been there 4 weeks ago, you can use this to clean the outside upwards. You don't have to squeegee and pull. Once you get lower, you can start wet washing. So with a little finesse and a little care, you can use this on the outside. But be forewarned, you live by the buffer, you die by the buffer. Some stores, the store owner has banned us from using a buffer anywhere because somebody went up there with a dirty, dry one and they just kind of went over the windows with a pad and left and didn't clean the windows at all. And so you're being forewarned here. Don't experiment that way. Or if you want to experiment, check your work. So a little tool orientation warning here. As we hire people experiment with what they can get away with. Let's do as little as possible and let's get out of here, which, hey, it's human nature. But if you're going to experiment on how you use these tools, check your work. Don't make your customer have to call us and say, hey, this guy messed up. So the next time you go out there, you get watched like a hawk and you've lost trust with your customer. And so use the tools that are available to you and do a perfect job on the windows as fast as you possibly can. That's the goal. You have to do a good job on the window cleaning and keep the customer happy, but you can see it with your own eyes. Train your own eye to see a clean window. So anyway, these can save a lot of time, but they can also be abused and cause customer complaints a lot more easily than a strip washer and a squeegee can. So be forewarned. It's a powerful tool, and if you use it the wrong way, it causes harm to your reputation as a window cleaner out there on the road. Towels. We've gone through microfiber towels, but we've gone back to using Huck surgical towels. We can get green ones. We'll continue with our green theme. Use this Huck surgical towel. You'll notice, I'll put it through my belt loop here, and this is how I walk around. This is the only tools I have on me as I walk around a strip center cleaning windows, a store. So this is it right here. Doesn't fall out. Stick it in your pocket, your back pocket, your front pocket, it'll fall out. So those will be assigned to you. This is a bath towel that's green. Why a bath towel? Because it costs about the same as a hand towel, but it has about 3 to 4 times as much cotton material available to wipe frames with, to wipe floors. So edging and ledging, vinyl lettering edges, poster edges, door edges, window edges maybe, with your Huck towel as needed. This is for floors and frames. So you just throw this guy down on the floor, stab him with a pole, maybe the back end of it or the front end, doesn't matter, either way, and you can mop the floor as you're done, especially inside a mall that has tile floors. But also take this and use it to wipe frames. So again, as we said, we wipe the sides as high as you can reach, and then that first frame, typically the one that's about knee to waist high height, that needs to be wiped down thoroughly. Above the door, above doorways where the water's rolling down, and you'll see it roll down and then up under. So when you open the door, you see all these white nasty drips. That's what we use this towel for, is to wipe frames. We have some customers, they know a good technician because the frames look clean. Look at your competition as you walk up and down a strip center or you're doing a store. Look at how your frames look and look at the store next to you. Many times I've gone up to a green light serviced store and I can tell the glass is clean, but look at the frames, they look horrible. Don't skimp on frames, keep them clean. Every time you do a store right, the next time you go back, it takes less work. So that's just something to keep in mind with towels. And now it's time for a little paperwork orientation. By the way, sunglasses, good to have. These are what we call green light sticky notes. You stick them right there by the key. They turn the doorknob there. As they're going in, they turn the key, they unlock the door to go into their store. What this is for, if you get up early, our normal time, most time retail stores open at 10. We start cleaning at 8 or earlier. And so if you finish the outside of a store and they're not there, you just take this and stick it on there and go keep cleaning, keep working. And as you drive back down this route, you can go back and get the paperwork done or do the interior cleaning. So especially on hot days or whatever the case may be, sticky notes come in very handy. And so you're issued those whenever you start up. This is a notepad, a clipboard carrier with carrier. So you'll notice it's a little box here. It also has a box down at the bottom to carry pens in. Very nice. So you have your clipboard here. This is for the paperwork that you're currently using, route details, service record, invoices, and the like. I usually keep those there. And as I finish each work order or invoice that I need to return, I'll put it in here, inside. But what do we normally keep inside? Window cleaning bid cards. You see a new store next to the store or in the same block or across the street. You know how to give yourself a raise. Go give them a price, add a store to your route, make more money without increasing your drive time. Invoices, let's say somebody comes out and says, hey, can you clean my windows? You go ahead and clean their windows and then you can give them an invoice as they pay cash or whatever the case may be. Also is issued to you is a price sheet. How do you calculate window cleaning prices? Well, at the bottom it shows you how to bid for windows, and then it tells you the minimums that we have and how to bid. So you'll be orientated on that as well during your training session. So those are the fundamental parts of Window Cleaners Toolkit. And we look forward to many happy weeks, months, and years of working together getting windows cleaned. Thank you.